But really what I'm trying to do is I'm just trying to explain like how we teach our children or the people that we love and the people that we care about, how we teach them to handle money is just as important as how we can give them money. Don't ever give anyone money. Give them money by teaching them the importance of the tool, because money is a tool and they should understand how to use the tool if you're going to give it to them. Welcome everybody to another wealth webinar. Today, what we're going to talk about is something you've all heard, but some of you don't understand, and that is proximity. We're going to talk about how proximity is power. And we're going to talk about how you can tap into that, but we're also going to go a little deeper. We're going to tie that proximity into how you can be your own bank, because proximity is powerful. It's powerful if you're in proximity to the right people that are doing the things you want to do. They can move you to the places in your life that you want to be. And that's exactly what we're going to talk about. And I'm going to sprinkle in today a little bit of, I guess, selfishly, stuff on what I want to teach my daughter, because I think, sometimes we just need to practice. And I'm going to practice on all of you on the ways I'm going to teach my daughter the different lessons that I did for her in my TEDx talk, which was called Rethink Money, A Letter to My Daughter. There are 6 lessons, 6 laws that I want my daughter to learn. And I want to really go deep into one of them because it's very relevant to proximity and it's really relevant to you all becoming your own banks. But with that being said, I also want to just turn it over. Shauna has put together some really, really amazing stuff. And I want to let her kind of take over for a second and just walk through a few of the things that she put together, all regarding what we're doing to put you all in the right place with the right people so that you can grow and get the things you want done. So what's up, Shauna?
Hello. I also wanted to say, if anybody likes my hat, you can go to chrisnoggle.com and scroll down to the merch area and you can buy it off of the website.
Woohoo! Hats on the website, finally.
I just put together a few slides. Some of you who are probably in our Facebook group, I think over the weekend, I was just looking at some of our photos from an experience and I posted the album link on the Facebook group. So if anybody's new here, I guess, can you let us know if this is your first time being here? I just want to take a really quick kind of overview of all of our touch points that we try to have for you guys. So you are here right now, the Wealth Wednesday webinar, live on Zoom. It is usually on the YouTube channel, probably by the weekend. So I also want to point you to the YouTube channel. So Chris's YouTube channel has so many videos. Later today, we end up doing a live stream. Earlier today, Chris and Steven also did a live stream from there. So, oh my gosh, there's a lot of first timers in here. So Joseph, Darren, Paul, you probably will never see my face and I'm really bad at speaking, so bear with me. So come back later. So where did you come from? Did you come from YouTube, Facebook, Instagram? I guess where are you guys coming from today? But I was going over a survey of a lot of our members, and they kind of said a lot of them came from YouTube or Facebook or something like that. So maybe you're already familiar with the YouTube channel, but at 4:30 today, we'll do a live Ask Me Anything. So Wednesdays is a very busy day for us. And I wanted to go over some of I guess especially for the newcomers, I just wanted to go over a couple of things that I got back from feedback. This was all anonymous from a survey that I had sent out, a Google form. But what is the best thing about being our student or member? So joining these calls. So hopefully, this will kind of give you a little encouragement for today when you're going to kind of sit and learn from Chris and Steven, especially if this is your first time. But a lot of people are saying no BS money information from people who have done it. I'm learning what those with affluent upbringings have learned, but better late than never. I work and save money, but now I'm learning how to make what I save work for me. And then another one is every training I get a new idea that I know I will be able to implement if I follow my plan. I am paying off my debt. I have a plan for the future and I'm much better off than I was. And I learned about things that I didn't know existed. And then why Chris Noggle and the Money School over other programs. So everything I was seeing and hearing just made sense. Plus, old concepts were presented in a refreshingly new way with examples, which I know Chris and Steven will get into later as this training kicks off a little bit. And then when I first heard Chris talk about BYOB, so being your own bank, on the Bigger Pockets podcast. I started following him and watching every video about, IBC, et cetera. So we're available virtually, again, if you want to go on YouTube, which I'm sure that's where some of you are, TikTok or Instagram. So that's super great. And then today we're going to talk about also like the power of proximity. So like while we're able to be together through our Facebook groups, through messaging, through comments, like all the things, these calls, there's really like something to be said for face-to-face interaction. So over the weekend, I was kind of looking at our photos from the in-person events that we do on occasion. We have one at the end of this month. I help coordinate a lot of that. So a lot of my energy right now is going to a lot of event coordinating and a lot of tasks and stuff like that for it. But when we're together, it looks like this, and it's like totally worth it. And it's incredible to be together with everybody. So I really encourage anybody who can make it to an in-person event. I got Julie, Tess, everybody, Mr. Snaggy. So, and then I just wanted to close with this one quote. So I sat down with Julie Baker, who she gave me, especially because I personally like help coordinate with a lot of the events, and I just like love all the people. So like when she was saying this to me, I was just like, that's like what I need to hear. Right. So like she said, even if I don't have money I'm looking to put somewhere, it replenishes that part of you that is doing all the things and reminds you of why you do what you do. So even if you don't think you need to go to an event because you're not looking for a deal right now, or you don't have money free to put somewhere, that's not necessarily why you should go to the event. Going in person is not necessarily just because you need something actively. You may get something that you didn't even realize you were looking for. So I just want to kind of kick off at least, how much we love you being here with us virtually. And the few times a year that we do have the ability to be together, are really important to us, and they really kind of sustain us like all year long. And so that's kind of my soapbox for today. And hopefully it started us off on the right foot.
You did a great job. And I'll never forget, like when I first started talking, that feeling like where you almost like get out of breath when you're doing it. So when you said that, I'm like, I remember that. Yeah.
I don't breathe as I'm talking. So I have to go like.
That's awesome. Oh yeah. We've all been there, or maybe some of you have not, because I think they say, people fear speaking more than they fear death. That's crazy.
I definitely fear death, but
yeah, speaking is not that scary at all. So the next live event that we're doing is this. It's at the end of this month, but that one's fully sold out. That's our Cancun experience. We're actually going to Playa del Carmen, which is just down the road from Cancun, to my private, me and my wife many years ago, almost 5 years ago, bought a villa down there in this place called Azul Fives, which is a all-inclusive owner-occupied community. We get our own butlers. It's all-inclusive. There's restaurants galore, infinity pools, oceans. There's even a jungle you can walk through and, see monkeys. And as cool as monkeys are, man, if you're eating lunch and you're trying to hang out with monkeys, you don't have lunch. And if your cell phone is sitting on the table, you don't have a cell phone either. Man, they are they'll take everything. They'll take your hat, your phone, and they'll take your girlfriend or boyfriend. They'll just haul it off into the woods. But all warnings aside, that's what we're going to be doing. Shauna, what's the next one we're doing in Salt Lake City? Might as well let everybody know real quick about that.
Yeah, well, I do want to kind of backtrack a little bit. The next experience event, so we're doing the Mexico experience event later this month, but we have another one in October it's in Las Vegas. I'm actively planning that, really excited for that. And then those are kind of more, we have to limit it to 25 people. It's a little bit more of like a steeper price point, but we do have one coming up at the end of April for Private Money Club specifically, which is like much more, it's not really going to break the bank.
Yeah, it's just not an expensive event. Like the Experience Mastermind, the one we just talked about in Cancun, that's $5,000. There's a lot to it, but this next one we're doing in Salt Lake, and then after that in the Carolinas, these events, are much cheaper. There's VIP tickets, and there's also just, general admission tickets. We're trying to, I don't have this confirmed, but I'll let the cat out of the bag a little bit. For VIPs, what we're doing is the day before, if they can come out the day before, we're doing a special Q&A session where we're going to have Sean Whalen. We're going to have some heavy hitters. Kelly Cardenas is going to be interviewing Sean Whalen, myself, and a few other cats that'll be pretty interesting. And that's going to be like a private session that we're putting together just for the VIP members. So we'll put the link up. Oh, the link's already up there right there. You can look at it. There is a limited number of VIP tickets for sure, because that event that we're doing the night before, and then some of the other things you get as VIP, we just don't have a lot of those seats. Actually, there's very few of them. And I know we've sold a few, but yeah, with that being said, Shauna, anything else you want to say about the event we're doing in Salt Lake?
I mean, I care so much about them. So anybody who makes the trip out to any of our events, like, I just appreciate it so much. And I love getting the team together beforehand and after, just to make sure that, you have a nice experience with us. So really, really excited for anybody who decides to come. It means a lot to all of us. And we all go on our own events, and go to our own masterminds and our own coaching groups too. And sometimes I'm inspired by you guys when I need something in my life that's going to, help change me or get me out of something. And I remember you, and I say, people come to us and they learn stuff, and like, it changes their lives. So I can trust, whatever program I'm looking at, and I take that leap because I witness you guys taking that leap with us. So I thank you for my own personal life.
Well, thank you, Shauna. I do appreciate it. And folks, we put that link up if anyone's interested in joining us at that Utah event. We just opened that up a couple weeks back, so feel free, grab your tickets. And the facility where we're doing it is wild. It was just rebuilt, but really the part we're going to be in is brand spanking new. And any of you sneakerheads that like SBs or Nikes or any of the fancy new designer shoes, there is probably one of the coolest, most robust shoe store at the front of the facility that has Nike SBs and other shoes you can't get anywhere. And just so you all know, the facility is owned by a true billionaire, and I know he'll be there at the event. So you'll be able to rub shoulders with a billionaire. If you've never talked to one, the way they think is so freaking cool, because they're big thinkers. They don't let fear get in their way. And the shoe store was one of their visions. So they just, they made it happen, and you'll have access to it. I know Steven's all about the SBs. Shauna just got herself a new pair of SBs. I got a pair of SBs, but I've never
Air Jordans.
I don't know the difference. SBs are the skateboard ones. That's the only ones I know. Is the Air Jordan.
SBs?
Sorry.
I missed that. SBs?
Yeah, the Nike SBs, the skateboard brand. We used to sell them at my shop.
I got you.
And
Yeah,
then
sorry.
Felix is asking about the event in the Carolinas. So there's actually going to be 2 this year. I don't want to take up all this time talking about events. We definitely want to get into the training, but August, I think it's 4th and 5th, is going to be another Private Money Club workshop. And then like our annual summit celebration for Private Money Club is going to be October 14th at the same event, and at the same venue. Definitely, Felix, we'll have that available soon.
One cool thing to know, though, the event that we're doing in the Carolinas, I mean, both facilities, we spend a lot of money, time, and research to find cool, unique venues to do our events, because we just don't want to do, I know you've all been to events at hotels. They're okay. You get in the hotel room, it's got the crazy carpets, crappy coffee that you charge too much money. We try to find unique places. So the ones in the Carolinas, if any of you know who the big guy, Tony Robbins, is, and you've seen his virtual events, the one with the wall of screens, that's exactly where our event is. We literally rented the facility, and the guy that owns the facility actually was on my podcast, and I was on his not too long ago. So some really neat things happening, but you guys all will be able to take part in that. So you can come to Utah, you can come to South Carolina, you can come to both, and some of you will be in Mexico with us in a short while. Awesome. Thanks, Shauna. All right, so let's dive into this. So if proximity is power, if who you hang around really has the power to change your financial future, well, then let's dive into that a little bit. And let's just do kind of an accounting of who you spend your time with. Now, I don't know, because we've got 134 people, who you spend your time with, but I want you to mentally think about that. And I'm just going to go back and I'm going to tell a story of mine. So growing up, I had a lot of friends. As we get older, we have less friends. Matter of fact, sad thing about as you get older, I'm 45 now, it seems like you lose more people in your life, to unfortunate things that happen, they go on to a better place. We lose more people than we actually make new friends. It's kind of weird because when we're younger, we're just always making new friends. And as we get older, we kind of don't always make more friends. We seem to lose more than we make. But when I was younger, I had two best friends, okay, Jack and Mike. And, I'm still good friends with both of them. But I remember as I started evolving and I started doing all this stuff that I'm doing today and going to masterminds and learning all this new stuff, my friends really didn't have the same desire to learn. They didn't have the same desire to go on the path. They were, I don't know about content, but they just didn't have that mindset. They didn't want more. Well, they wanted more, but they didn't want it the way I did. So what ended up happening is, myself and them we started dividing or just splitting a little. I'd see them less, we'd hang out less. And I remember one of them moved. He lived in Salt Lake City for most of this time, and I would go see him there, and it was great. But my other best friend lived here. And I would go out and hang out with him as much as I could. But it was always like every time I hung out with him, I almost felt, and this is no disrespect to him, but I always felt like I took two steps back because it was always complaining. It was always blaming. It was always, we'd have a couple beers and then he would just talk about negative things. And I'd leave there not feeling fulfilled, not feeling like I did when we hung out as kids, jumping BMXs and dirt bikes and skateboards, but I'd almost feel like all that was done is complaining. And you all know that when you get around somebody that's complaining, what do? You start complaining and you start feeding into that negative energy. And I saw this happening, and this happened for years, folks. And I remember just some things had happened, and we just kind of started partying, and I wasn't seeing him as much. He was always wanting to hang out, and I just couldn't. And folks, this is hard. It's really hard when you got a best friend, a family member, a mother, a father, a brother, a sister. You're always around them, but when you're around them, do they push you? Do they push you to the next level? Do they really support you? Do they want you to succeed, or do they want to succeed with you? Or do they want to tell you that your ideas are dumb, they're stupid? Or this is the worst thing, do you feel bad about talking to them about the things you learned? Like, think about that. So how it happened for me, for both Jack and Mike, when I'd learn all this new stuff at masterminds and I'd start applying it and I'd start doing it. Now, maybe it's the infinite banking concept and the specially designed whole life. So that was the big one. Or maybe it was like what I'd learn about like at the masterminds and being around these multimillionaires and billionaires that just thought different. And they just did things different. And when I'd come back, when we'd get together, I would just want to talk about it, because naturally when you're excited about something, you want to talk to somebody about it. You don't want to hold that stuff in. And I'd go and I'd talk to my friends about it, my family members. They just never wanted to talk about it. And as a matter of fact, they wouldn't just not want to talk about it. It was always negative things. And I'm not going to mention which friend, but it was always, oh, that sounds like a scam. Oh, that sounds too good to be true. That familiar to any of you? Does that sound like any of the conversations you have? Because if you think myself, Shauna, or Stephen are any different, you're mistaken. Our friends, our families, in different lights, are all the same thing. And there you go. Terry just said every day. And I saw this happening. And it made me not feel good about wanting, and I was telling them about it, not because I had any other desire other than I want them to benefit the way that I was benefiting. I want them to have financial freedom the way I was achieving financial freedom. I want them to basically benefit and go further in their lives for their families like I was. But as I kept telling them about it, it wasn't even just telling them, folks, they were seeing it firsthand. They were seeing my life change. I was telling them my debts are gone. I don't owe debts to anybody else. All the payments I used to make to Visa, Amex, all the credit cards and the lines of credit now were paid back to me. They didn't understand that, but they didn't want to understand that. That was the part I had a hard time with. They didn't want to learn that. They didn't want to understand it. They didn't want to have any part of it. They just wanted to talk about the negative things. And that was it. When I realized this, I wanted to do more. I wanted to be more. I wanted to help more people. And then I'd come home to the people that I love, my family, my friends, and I'd want to share this with them, and they wanted nothing to do about it, but they just wanted to crap on it. They just wanted to put it down. And that was it. I literally came to a point where I literally said, I'm no longer hanging out with them. And I haven't. And it makes you feel bad. There are many times, like around the holidays, where you're like, oh, I probably should call Mike. I probably should go out and see Mike. I should probably do something, but I don't. And it's not because I'm a jerk. Not because I have no heart. I'm actually a pretty sensitive kind of guy, but it's because I realized that proximity is power. And if I want to get where I want to get, and if I want to change people's lives the way we are at Money School and Money Multiplier and Private Money Club, well, damn it, I got to get around people that want their lives lives to change. I got to get around people that think the way I did, that do the things I want to do. I got to get mentors in my life. I got to get people in my life that have done the things that I need to be doing. And I need to know the path. But if I just spent my time with the negative Nellies, and these were my best friends, if I just spent my time with them and all we did is argued, and if all I did when I was around them is felt bad about talking about the amazing things I was doing, how was I ever going to grow as a person? How was I ever going to grow as a leader? We can't. So when I say proximity is power, I truly mean that. But I don't mean that just as a cliche thing, folks. Some of you will have to make the decision I did, where you just say, that's it. And you'll have to draw the line in the sand. And it will not be easy. I've had to do it with my father, my stepmother. I've had to do it with my cousins. I've had to do it with my two best friends, which, I know there's family and there's friends, but my two best friends were family. Mike lived with me growing up. Jack, I mean, he might as well just have lived at my house. We were together, we're inseparable. And I still see Jack, but Mike, I don't. It was hard. But sometimes you got to make a hard decision to then really go to the place you want. Because I'm going to tell you, the place you're trying to go, it's a lonely road getting there, because it's the path less traveled. If you just follow the same path you followed your whole life, you're going to go the same place where you're at or where you've been. Is that where you want to be? Ask yourself that question. Is that where you want to be, or do you want to be somewhere more? And I always say this when I speak. I say, how many of you want more? And I have the whole audience screaming. And the first time they say it, it's always weak. It's like, more. And then I'm like, oh my God, really, folks? Sometimes I swear a little. I say, come on, act like you actually mean it. And then I ask them again and they scream it. But when they scream it, if you look at their faces, they're smiling, they're laughing. The first time they said it was just more. But then the second time they said it like they meant it. And it was different. Not only was it louder, but it was because they truly meant it. So when you draw the line in the sand, you better truly mean it. Because once you do, I'm not saying there's no going back, but when you go back understanding that you're not going back to conform to what they want to talk about. You're going back to share what you've learned and where you're going. And they're either on the boat or they're not. That's a really important thing. Listen, we do the events that we do, whether it's the virtual events, the Mexico Mastermind, the Las Vegas Mastermind that's coming up later this year, the Salt Lake City in a couple months, because we know the people that are going to be there think like us. We know the people that are there want more, and we want to give more. And that's the proximity is power, folks. And I know you are all here. You're like, oh, teach me about the banking. Teach me about private money clubs. Show me how to do this and that. Cool. As long as you all understand that one thing that we just went over, that line in the sand has to be drawn before I can teach you anything. This is a free webinar. You can come every single week. You can pay attention or you cannot. And facts and statistics prove that when you pay for something, you pay more attention and you apply the knowledge in a much higher level than you do free events. But that's okay. This event's always free. But I just urge you, like, I'm serious. Like, when you draw that line, you better be serious with yourself. Don't do it for me. Don't do it for Sean, or don't do it for Stephen. Do it for you. Do it for your family. Do it for your daughter or your son. If you really want to get down to it, why do I do the things I do? My daughter. It's quite simple. I don't do it for my mom. I don't do it for my dad to say, oh, son, I'm so proud of you. Thanks, Dad. I'm not doing this for you anymore. You had your chance, and you know what? You were a good dad, but I'm not doing this for you. Mom, I love you to death. You helped me get where I am. I know you've always been my biggest cheerleader, but Mom, I'm not doing this for you anymore. I'm doing this for my daughter, Vivi. And all of you got to decide who and what motivates and gets you out of bed in the morning. And I bet you any money, it's your kids. Some of you are like, nope, it's my dog. Cool, it's your dog. Where's my cat? My cat helps me get out of bed too, but we got to pick that. And that's where I want to take this to next. Stephen, is there anything you want to comment on with what we just went over with proximity is power, or the events that we've got coming up?
No, I'm good. I mean, I love it. Obviously, I'm a huge fan of events. We talk about it all the time. I've been attending them, hosting them. I mean, they've really taken, my life, my business, everything to the next level. The connections made at them are more important than the content and the knowledge that you get from them. I would be willing to say. I mean, the only reason, like, I know you guys, Chris, you and Shauna and Gabby and Andrew is through events, through meeting people at events. And So it's just funny how it all comes around. And, if you talk to people on here, like Tess said, like Tess, she's walked into her first event and was like, felt so out of place, no clue. And now we're all like family. It's just amazing how that happens when you have people that think alike. And just, it seems like for me personally, just the older I get, the more relevant that becomes, not only being able to look back on my own experience, but just the way my mindset thinks a little bit. Like, I've been talking about these whole life policies, infinite banking for 3 or 4 years now, using them, with this way of becoming your own bank. But, as a financial advisor in the past, I never looked at life. Like I was like, oh, life insurance, it's something to sell, but nothing I really wanted, things like that. But like, as you get older, your mind changes a little bit. And maybe it's the people you surround yourself that make your mind change. I feel bad for people that are 50, 60, 70 years old, and they still have the mindset of somebody that's no offense, but young and naive. And so, that's how you improve and get around the people that you want to be around. And, I'm reading these comments on here. There's just so many of them. But like in January, I turned 40. Right before that, I they found skin cancer on my face, which they had to get cut out, and just been having like all kinds of like back issues. And it's like, it makes you realize, like, as you get older, like, man, things do happen and stuff can happen. And then like I had a client pass away, one of my clients passed away, and realized how important that death benefit was to him and his family. And it's just like all this stuff happened within like a couple month time span. And just now over the last like 30 days, my mindset has really shifted to how important that death benefit is on these policies. It's not just about that cash value, building wealth right now, but it is about that legacy aspect and what that can do. And that's just happened for me recently. So it's amazing how quickly stuff can happen too when you do get around the right people. So I love it, man. I love what Shauna was saying too.
Yeah, I love the comments. And Laura was saying, about the 2 friends and, 15, since I just like the comment about her dogs too. Like, like you're right, dogs and animals, unconditional love, and they don't mouth back. They don't tell us how stupid we are for ideas. They just purr or bark and they just want to play. And that's pretty cool. But I love these comments. They're pretty amazing. So where I thought we would go with today's webinar, because I want to make sure you all get some really good knowledge that can be applied. But the reason I started with that video where I was talking about, my daughter and the different things, and, in that video, there was an important thing. Some of you picked it up. I know a lot of you came on after that. And folks, the video that I'm referring to is a video that was really specifically made for the dads on here. So it'll be posted on the YouTube channel next week. And if you're subscribed and you have the alerts button on, you'll be notified. But the one thing I think that's important to explain, and I know this is kind of, I don't know if it's a controversial topic, but it's a topic many of you are going to disagree with me about. And that's okay. We can agree to disagree about anything you want, but this is an important thing. And I've seen this. I lived this and I've seen this, and now I'm going to apply this. And I wanted to just share something, because me and Stephen were at a mastermind in Las Vegas not long ago, and the guy putting the mastermind on really said something that moved me, and I kind of want to just share that, but I want to share it in a real life story. So in that video, for those of you that were watching when I had that YouTube video playing, I said, don't ever give your kids money. I said that, and in today's society, I know a lot of kids ask their parents for money and they give it to them. And I'm not saying do or don't do that, but I say don't give your kids money. Your kids should value money. So if they ask for money, there should be something tied to that has a value. But let's not talk so much about money, because that's just too cliche. Let's just talk about a kid's first car. Now, just by show, and this is not bad if you say yes or no, it doesn't matter. How many of you, when your child or son or daughter turned 16 or 17, whenever you decided, how many of you bought them their first car and you just gave it to them as a gift? Just put I in the chat. And I'm sure there's going to be a lot of them. Okay, Jill said no way. We bought old cars they didn't like. All right, I like that. Oh, that's great. Okay. Verena said I. All right, cool. Now let me ask all of you a question. All the ones that just said I did, so the ones that bought your child a car, when you were a child, did your parents buy you a car? If your parents bought you a car, can you just in the chat put car? Because I want to make sure we differentiate that. Okay,
my mom made me buy her car from her so that she could buy another car.
Okay, so you bought your car.
I had to buy my mom's car from her.
But folks, are you watching this? Now that's not a very big time frame. So we're talking about let's just say it's anywhere between a 30 and 50-year time frame we're talking about here. The majority of the people that said that they bought their child a car, if they went back to their childhood, a lot of them right now just said they had to buy their own first car. So if they had to buy their own first car, that means when they had to buy their own first car, they had to work for that car. They had to do something. I don't care if it's babysitting, mowing lawns, working on a farm like I did, whatever. You had to do something. You had to trade hours, do some work to get paid so you could buy the car, right? Because if you had to buy your own car, you had to do something to earn the money to buy the car. Now, when you just handed the car to your kids, they didn't really have to do anything. It's just almost an entitlement. They're your kids, so you felt you wanted to buy them a car. And I get it. My wife and me will probably get in many arguments, but I got, what do I got? So Vivi's almost 3. So I figure, I got 13 years to condition my wife to understand my way of thinking on this. And my way of thinking is not bad. It's teaching your children something. Now, let me just kind of go to this. When Vivi is old enough to have a car, now I'm sure she's going to have a lot of nice things. I mean, she has a collection of Baby Shark clothes that rivals any of your clothing infatuations any of you have. Maybe some of you like the Nikes or whatever your favorite clothing line is, and you look in your closet, you got a lot of them. Vivi's Baby Shark collection is unprecedented. And I mean, down to underwear and socks. I'll say no more. But I want to get back to the car. When Vivi's 16 or whenever she's ready to buy a car, she will have to buy her own car. But here's the thing. The money that she's going to use to buy the car, this is kind of where we're going to cross, the two things. People that had to buy their car and people that were handed a car. She's going to have to buy her own car, which means she's going to have to use her own money. But you see, Dad and Mom set up a banking system for Vivi, in which, while she's now, since 6 months old, we put $5,000 per year into her banking system. Now, Vivi does not control this. I have, she's only not even 3 yet, but as she gets older, I probably will tell her about it, but I will make sure she knows that that is Dad's money. If she ever thinks she's rich because she looks at the policy's cash value, I'm like, you're not rich. You just have maybe the ability to use this money for the things you want to buy. So think of this, Vivi, as a bank, but it's a bank you can't abuse. And if you abuse it, this bank will never be yours. You'll never have access to this if you abuse this. So when she goes to get her first car, the money's in this bank, but I own the bank. Okay, her dad owns the bank. She does not, but she knows that that's her money. I mean, let's be honest. She's going to know that's technically her money, but it's going to come with conditions. So let me just share my screen. When Vivi wants to buy a car, we're going to spend the time. We're going to do some really fun things. Actually, I'm not going to share this yet. Vivi's going to be able to go in and pick the car that she wants. Like, come on, how fun is that, right? I remember when I was a kid, Grandma and Grandpa would have me look through the Sears book, and I would pick all the toys I wanted. We'd circle them in there, and then at Christmas came and I got the toys, right? So you all know how fun it is to look for the things you really want. Some of you have bought cars, and you go online, you research the cars. Me and Vivi are going to do that. We're going to find like all the cars, and we're going to come up with a range that she can afford, and she's going to pick whatever car she wants. Hell, I mean, Shauna, it could be that Porsche 911. I mean, she probably have enough, but she's not getting a Porsche when she's 16. I'm just going to be clear about that. But whatever she wants, so she picks the car. Now, here's where the next part comes. The next part is where I'm going to explain to her how she can have any car that she wants. And it's going to start with her understanding that by her buying a car, she is going to have to learn how to be the bank. Now, what you're all looking at is what's called a secured promissory note. Now, this is one that we use on Private Money Club. It's going to be up on the Learn section very soon. We had our attorneys draft this so that everybody could use it. See this big disclaimer. So that big disclaimer makes it so that we can share this. But I know there's a lot of stuff here, but let's just keep this really simple. Vivi is going to have to read through this. But you see over here, the borrower is not going to be XYZ. It's going to be Vivi Naugle. And she's going to handwrite all this. I'm going to make her do this. We'll do it together. She's going to handwrite that she's the borrower. She wants whatever dollar amount. So let's just say Vivi is buying a $25,000 car at that point. She's buying a $25,000 car. So we'll write that in there. We'll spell it all out. And the lender is going to be the Naugle Family Bank. Okay, we'll just call it that. Or maybe even just to make it more personal for her, maybe it'll be the Vivi Bank. So Vivi's banking system. So we write that in there, and she's going to go through and we're going to fill all this in, principal 25 grand. And then I'm going to have her read each section. Until she reads the section, we can't move on. And the longer it takes her to read this, the longer it's going to take her to get the darn car, because the money's in the bank, right? The money's there. She can have it anytime she wants. And down here, when we get to this section called interest, this is where some of you folks are going to disagree with me. When we get to this interest section, I'm going to ask Vivi, how much do you think your bank should charge you in interest for this car? Her answer is going to be a very important one. Now, if I've done my job, she's going to say, well, Dad, I don't know. What would it cost if I went to another bank? And then what we're going to do is we're going to go to Bank of America. We're going to go online. We're going to just see what other banks charge. And we're going to do another exercise. We're going to figure out what interest rate other banks charge. And we're going to charge the exact same amount. So let's just say other banks right now would charge Vivi 6.5%. So we'll write 6.5% in there. And you can see these are all sections in there, but 6.5%. And then what we're going to say is we're going to then figure out, all right, for how long do you want this loan to be? So she's going to have to figure out the duration of her loan. It's up to her. And how we're going to figure that out is we're going to say, okay, Vivi, based on the amount that you make, how much can you afford? So now here's where it's different than going to a bank. If she goes to Bank of America, Ally Bank, Wells Fargo for a car loan, whose terms does she have to take? The banks, right? She doesn't get to make her own terms. She gets to go to their terms and do whatever they tell her. Now, she might have a couple choices like, well, we can do a 6-year loan, a 7-year loan, a 10-year loan. By then, hell, they might have 20-year car loans. Who knows? But she gets to pick the term. On here, she gets to do the same thing. And the term will basically dictate the amount of her payment. So she might say, okay, I can afford $500 a month. So we're going to put that in there. We're going to write down how much she can afford per month. And she's going to be doing all this. And it's going to be handwritten in. There's something special about handwriting something versus just typing it in. There's a different connection because you're physically writing it. Okay. That's why we all have to sign something. I know DocuSign's different, but really just still think we all have to sign something when we want it. So she's going to go through this, and she's also going to understand if you don't make the payment, the bank can repo your car. She's going to understand that. She's going to probably laugh about that. But we're going to fill this whole thing out. And then we're going to get to the end of this promissory note. Sorry, there's a lot of sections in here. And folks, we're going to make her initial a couple sections, and we're going to get down here. And she's the borrower. So it's going to be her name. And she's going to have to physically sign this. And then what we're actually probably going to do, just to make it super fun, we're going to go to the bank or somewhere where they can be notarized. Hopefully by then I have a notary on staff. So we're going to come to the office, and Vivi isn't going to sign this, but she's going to sign it in front of a notary. So now it makes it official. So she signs it in front of a notary, and I sign as the executor of her bank or the president of her bank, whatever we want to put my title down. But what I just did is I just taught at that time, a 16-year-old, we just taught a 16-year-old one of the first things about how to be a bank. And that is she can have anything that she wants as long as her bank has enough money in it. And if she takes money from her bank, she could never, ever, ever steal the money from her bank. She will always sign a note. I don't care if it's $1,000. She will always sign a note to her bank promising to pay that money back with interest. And when she will, and probably for the first car, I will teach her how to file a lien. So we'll go to the DMV and we'll actually put a lien on that car. I know that sounds silly, but we're going to do that. And she's going to watch how that whole thing does. And we'll do it both at the same time when she's actually, registering the car and doing that stuff to save time. But we'll actually put a lien on the car so that now, if she doesn't pay that loan back to her bank, she doesn't own the car. There's a lien, clouded it up. This is such a simple thing. Now, think of this, not just your children, but anybody else. If you're going to lend money, somebody came to you and they wanted to borrow money from you. If you're going to lend money to them, this is the process you go through. You never, ever just give anybody money. You let them understand the value of that exchange. Money for car, car for money, money for house, house for money, money for airplane, airplane for money, whatever. Understand the value of it, put it on paper, and make them do a wet signature of it. There's something powerful about that. And then I'll explain, and if you don't pay me, here are the downsides. Here are the repercussions if this isn't paid. You ever feel like you don't have control of your real estate business or your money? That's right. The big banks and the institutions, they're in control, right? I know you felt that before. Private Money Club puts you back in the driver's seat. As members often tell us, it's a total game changer. Join the community of like-minded lenders and borrowers by going to privatemoneyclub.com.
sign up.
So Simon's asking, okay, is this life insurance? So also maybe just kind of a quick recap maybe for the new people, but yeah, essentially that banking policy is the cash value from his daughter's life insurance.
I'll just pull it up. I'll just show it. All right, so folks, I'm going to share my screen again. So yes, when Vivi was 6 months old, me and my wife, Larissa, we opened this. Okay, now this is just a spreadsheet of it, but this is a specially designed and engineered whole life insurance policy that was built for Vivi. Now she was 6 months old, as you can see, you know, they advanced her to a year, and then what me and Larissa decided is we were going to fund this at $5,000 per year, which I have. So we're almost at year 3 on this thing we funded. Now, for any of you looking at the numbers, you're looking here, the net projected cash value and the premium. If you were doing the math, you're like, wow, Chris, I've watched a bunch of your videos and that seems really low for the cash value in the early years. Precisely. It was designed. I designed this policy different than I would have designed yours or mine because she's 6 months old, folks. She doesn't need liquidity of that money. I'm not going to take a loan from her policy to go buy a piece of real estate. She can't. I'm sorry, folks, at 3 years old, like she's not going to learn or retain that. She's not going to retain it at 5 years old either. You know, when she starts understanding things, we'll start using this to do loans and stuff. But for right now, I didn't need the early cash value. So I literally designed this policy where the $5,000, 60% of it went to the base. We never do 60% to the base for you folks or for our policies, but I did it for my daughters because that means the policy will have higher growth later. I give up early on cash value. As you can see, I put 5 in. I only had access to 2,228 in the first year. Significantly less than what any policy we design for anyone else would be. But because my daughter doesn't need the money early on, I wanted to build the policy to play the long game, to have the most amount of money later when we need it. So when we do that, how I designed this is I said, okay, well, the first thing I can think of that Vivi will need is college. So when I designed this policy, I designed it so that when she gets to the age of college, now I know some of you are laughing. You're like, college isn't 20 grand. Well, all right. So does it matter how much college is? She's got at that time $108,000 in cash value. I can pay more than 20 grand for school. I had to put an arbitrary number. So every year that she's going to go to school, what I'm going to teach her to do is instead of taking student loans, her bank is going to fund her college. And her bank is going to require her to sign another promissory note for the college. And she is then going to make payments back to her bank. Now, probably just like a student loan, when she retires or when she's out of school, she'll start making repayments back. But I want you all to know that this illustration you're looking at does not show any repayments ever. Okay, I'm literally showing this because it's hard to actually demonstrate it with anything, but I'm showing it with her stealing money from her bank. Okay, I just want to be clear about that. You would never do that, but that's how I'm showing it. So as we keep moving on here, we fund her college, $20, $40, $60, $80,000 came out. You know, there we go. That's how much cash value we have left, 73,000, but we're earning interest on 153. So all of you hopefully understand that. So when we take this $20,000 loan every single year, what's happening is the death benefit's going to go down by 20 grand, but her cash value doesn't leave her account. So 119, 130, and folks, are you doing the math? I want you to look at that real quick. What is 130 minus 119? 11 grand. She puts 5 in this year, so year 18, whether we put it in or she puts it in, we put 5 grand in, her plan grows by 11. How many of you can take 5 grand and put it in your bank account, put it in your CD, heck, I could even say put it in your investment account and have it go from 5 to 11. Just want to make sure you guys are all paying attention here. But her bank does because she's been compounding for all these years and it's the way I designed it. So her bank right here grows by $11,000 just that year. And every year it goes up. So here it's 12,000. Notice the next year that was 11. The next year 12. Well, almost 12. Okay, off by a couple $100. So we're funding most of her college on her money working for her. I just want you all to make sense of that. So then as she goes on, she's eventually going to get married. And when she gets married, I got her getting married at 29. Doesn't matter if it's earlier or later, she's got the money. So we're then going to take a loan for 40 grand. A lot of people fund their weddings by taking loans. Okay. I've heard crazy stories of people putting weddings on credit cards. But anyway, her wedding will be funded by a loan from the policy. Now, mom and dad might, as a wedding gift, agree to pay her bank back the 40 grand, but that's how it will be agreed. You don't have to pay the 40 grand back. Mom and dad are going to pay the 40 grand back. And what we're going to do is we're going to pay it back over 3 or 4 years at whatever interest rate, not shown on here. She's then going to buy a house. So I got 60 grand coming out for a house. Then when I'm long gone here, she's going to have kids, and her kids are going to go to school, and they're going to need money for school. So she uses the same policy, and now she's funding her kids' college. Again, does it matter if it's 30 grand? A lot of people like catch me on this when I do trainings, and they're like, well, Chris, college, in that many years, is going to be 49 years in the future, going to be way more than 30. Man, she's got $685,000 in there. Does it matter how much money college is? Is it going to cost more than $685,000? I mean, maybe, but let's not forget, this is the first policy that we started for Vivi. At this point, she'll probably have 15 of these things. Just saying, this is just the first one we started when she was 16 years old. Then she funds all those different things. And just so you all know, like I said, none of these has had her paying these back, which is not how we would do this. Then someday Vivi's going to retire. And we have her retiring at 64. Same policy, still funding 5 grand. But just let's put it into perspective here. And now I'm definitely going to need someone to do a calculator. So it goes from 1,555,000. So what is that? That's
Simon's also saying, is this whole life or an IUL? This is whole life.
Yeah, I said that already.
Well, grew
Okay,
by,
just making sure.
grew by 4,000 minus the 90 you took out, right? So 94,000.
Yeah. So $95,000. So yes. So I should have been doing this column. So we put 5 in and it grows by 95,000. Put 5 in and it grows by 95,000. So essentially, this 90,000 she took out the first year of her retirement does nothing to her principal, barely touches her principal. The next year, another 90, next year, another 90. She just takes 90,000 bucks tax free. And then I just show at 90 years old, like goes on to a better place. I mean, I had to stop it somewhere. So if you really sum this up at the age of 90, this is not an IUL. An IUL will not do this. Just for the record, I hate IULs. And I think we should do a wealth webinar because it's been a while on IULs because things have really, really gotten out of hand with IULs. But here at age 90, we put in over all the years, for 90 years, the total amount we put in is $398,000. Okay, that's how much went into this specially designed whole life. The amount of loans that we took out to do the retirement, the kids' college, the down payment on her house, the car or the wedding, and then her college, we took out $2.73 million. Put in 398, took out 2.7, but she had a cumulative cash value of 5.5 million, which means she did not use $2.9 million of the money. So she could have taken $2.9 million, lent it out to Rob Fuller, or put it in an ISIO fund and made 12% or more on this money, but she didn't. Her net return, net after cost of insurance. Oh, by the way, when she did pass here, $4 million was paid out to her beneficiaries. And her net return was $738,000. So when people are like, oh, why didn't it have enough cash value early on? Do we still have any questions now? I think this answers it. The plan was built for long-term growth, but I started this policy for my daughter when she was 6 months old. This policy, the single policy, will fund most of the things in Vivi's life, her car, anything else that she needs. And every single one of those loans will have some type of a lesson attached to it, whether it's the promissory note or, if we did, instead of doing a down payment on a house, maybe we just fund her house and then that would be a mortgage. Brent Kessler teaches this to his children too. Hannah, some of you know, some of you don't. Brent's my mentor and, the founder of the Money Multiplier. And his daughter, Hannah, has been basically brought up kind of the same way Vivi will around this. This is all she's known. Hannah's house is funded with one of the banking systems that Brent set up for Hannah. Hence how I came up with this idea to do it for Vivi. And when Hannah bought her house, she took a loan from that policy, which her dad owns. She's the beneficiary, or I'm sorry, she's the insured, but her dad's the owner. He bought the house for her. And then he charged her interest and she pays interest back to that policy. Now, Hannah, at the end of the day, some kids would complain about that. Oh, why do I have to pay interest on money? Like, Dad, come on. Like, that ain't fair. Hannah never says, Dad, that ain't fair. Hannah's like, Dad, why'd you only charge me 9% or 10% interest? Because Hannah knows that someday that banking system that's being funded, that's also being recapturing all the money that she'd give away to a bank for a mortgage payment, that's hers. She might not be the owner of it today, but someday she is going to be the rightful owner of that. So any money she pays in interest just goes back into her banking system, which she'll benefit from later. So there's never a time where Hannah was like, oh, Dad, that ain't fair. Why are you charging me 10% for this mortgage when I can go to the bank and get a mortgage for 3%? Hannah's like, sure, 10%, no problem, as long as she can afford to make that payment, because that 10% is going to be her money. Does that make sense, everybody? I just want to make sure I didn't lose anybody. Yeah, and folks, if you have questions, just throw them in the Q&A, because like I went really quick through that. But really what I'm trying to do is I'm just trying to explain like how we teach our children or the people that we love and the people that we care about, how we teach them to handle money is just as important as how we can give them money. Don't ever give anyone money. Give them money by teaching them the importance of the tool, because money is a tool and they should understand how to use the tool if you're going to give it to them. And they should also understand that, because some kids would be like, oh, that's so dumb. I don't want to do that. Dad, we have the money to buy the car. Why would I have to make payments? Son or daughter, when you make those monthly payments, I want you to understand that that payment that you make every month for that car, that's your money. And every payment you make is another dollar that goes into your banking system and another dollar earning interest and dividends compounding, so that that money that you just paid, you'll be able to use that. So the next car you buy, guess what? You're going to get all the money back for every car you ever buy, drive, and own. And every single car you buy, drive, and own, the next one, you're going to make more money on it, and more money and more money and more money. I have a YouTube video showing, it's kind of old now, but it shows how me and Larissa bought 3 different cars. One in 2008 was the first one I used my policies for. Then I show another one, which was 2014 or 15. And then I showed the last one, which would have been 2019, I think that was. So we show 3 cars, but just so you all know, the third car I bought using that policy, for every dollar I paid for that Porsche, because it was Larissa's Porsche that we bought her. For every dollar I paid for that Porsche, I got back $3.22. Just want to make sure you're following. So I put $1 into the policy and I got $3.22 back. Every single specially designed whole life, every whole life for that matter, will do that the same thing. Definitely not going to be the case with an IUL. A lot of people that buy IULs right now, they're going to be writing the agent, the advisor, or the insurance company a nasty letter saying, hey, I was told this thing was going to do this and it didn't do this. It's why there's already been regulation out, I think 2 or 3 times already against IULs, because the agents, and we'll just call it the agents selling them, were showing them with a hypothetical return that wasn't happening. And people were complaining, otherwise regulators don't get involved. So regulators passed law, and you guys can look this up, it's public knowledge, passed laws, and I just can't think of what it's called, that limited the amount that the insurance companies could illustrate. And I think right now the max, and I could be off on this, the max they can illustrate in an IUL, I think is 5.5, or at least that's the last regulation, whether or not it went into effect or not. So I'm not here to talk about IULs, but I'm just simply saying what we're showing you with these specially designed whole lives and being your bank, it's not sexy. Not. If any of you were watching those numbers, yeah, I know you got caught up in how much she had at the end, but like that was a long ride and it grew slow. There was no fast getting rich there. People do IULs, people do the stock market because they want to get rich quick. And what happens? Well, look at anyone's 401k statement right now. Okay, look at anyone's IUL statement. I guarantee you it's not performing the way that was illustrated right now. There's no get rich quick. There's get rich slow, or I like to say get wealthy slow. There's a difference between rich and wealthy, folks. And this ties back to proximity is power. If you're hanging around a bunch of people that act rich, that are always buying the fanciest things, always doing the fanciest events, the bottle services and everything, and listen, to each their own. But if they're acting rich, I urge you to take one additional step. Try to figure out what they actually have. Like how much money do they really have saved? How much, or do they just spend every dollar they make? Here in Buffalo, I know a lot of people that act rich. They drive fancy cars, wear fancy clothes, have the fancy shoes and the Rolex watches, and are always flaunting them all over the internet. I'm sure it's not just a Buffalo thing. I'm sure it's an everywhere thing. But I know for a fact, and I'm not going to give any names, I know for a fact these people have hardly any money saved. When they make money, they spend it on things. And they make more money, they spend it on nicer things. I know this for a fact because you know why? Being in the money space, I get to see behind the curtain a lot. And when I ask them, well, how much money do you have saved? Where are your investments? How much are you saving? What are you doing? A lot of times I almost inside want to say, how is that possible? You made $350,000 this year. It's one of the best years you ever had, and that's all you have saved. Well, yeah, but I got the R8, and oh, and I just put a big addition onto my house, and oh, we did this, and oh, we did that. You're all here. I hope you're all here to understand that building wealth is a marathon. Because if you're here to try to get rich quick, you're in the wrong place. There's plenty of other webinars out there where they're going to show you the next crypto or the next IUL where you're going to get rich quick or whatever they're pitching out there. And you know what that is? That's the fastest way to get poor. And I'm not being a jerk. I'm being very real with all of you. So if proximity is power and you're hanging out with people that act rich, change that. Start hanging around with people that are wealthy. The difference between rich and wealthy is wealthy people have figured out how not to give their money back. Okay. Rich people, they might have money for a period of time, but then they give it back. How do I know? Have you ever heard my story? I had money and I had nice things and then it was gone. I had it and I gave it back. And then I had money again and I had nice things. And then you know what? It was gone. And then I did that twice. And that's all I needed to do. It wasn't a strike three, you're out for me, thank God. So I just changed the way I did things. I started just saving a lot. Today, me and my wife, we save roughly about 30, depending on the year, 32 to 38% of our gross income. Now, I know that's absurd, but I'll tell you something. Let me go back just a short while ago. Just a short while ago, I saved less than 10%. Less than 10%. I bet you probably closer to 5. So I went from 5% savings back then to over 30% today. But that was over a period of almost a decade it took me to get to there. And how did I do that? By not wanting the fancy watches, by not going out and trying to act rich, by not going out and trying to flaunt things. I used to get so much crap. Shauna, you know this. I used to get so much crap. Remember that Chevy truck that I just loved? It was the cheapest Chevy.
It's a Silverado, right?
The Silverado, the 1500 Silverado, but I did the elevation package. And you could do all these upgrades on the elevation. And I did the cloth seats. I did all the basic things. I think the only thing I did is I did those fake seat covers that made it look like it was leather, but that was the only upgrade. It was like my payment on that thing, I think was like $220 a month. Now I was doing really well. I mean, you remember that. Me and Larissa had the TV show. We were doing really well, like making good money. And I was content with this truck. It didn't cost me a lot of money. Like it was fine by me. I didn't need to flash or prove anything to anybody, but my wife started saying, nobody takes you serious. And I'm like, what do you mean they don't take me serious? Why? Like, we're doing good. And she's because like they're looking at your car you drive. Like they look at you roll up in this pickup truck, which is a nice truck, but they know what those are and they know what they cost, and they're not going to take you serious. Like they're going to look over to this guy who's driving the Range Rover or this guy who's driving the fancy car, and they're going to take him way more serious than you. And you know what? I kind of was like, I was upset by that, like, because I was just like, people don't judge people by what they drive. Larissa, that's stupid. Why would you say that? But you know what? She was freaking right. She was right. And it's just like, I'd still probably have a pickup truck. I have a nicer vehicle now, but and people do judge you on that car. But I'm just saying that just be judged not by what you want other people to think, but be judged by what you actually do. See, I might have a really nice vehicle today, but my banking system paid for it. And I make a payment every single month of $1,891. I could look, $1,891. Now I know some of you are like, that's absurd. That's more than my mortgage payment. It's a nice car. I don't know what to say, but $1,891 a month I paid back to my policy every month. Doesn't matter. My payment could be $5,000 a month. Wouldn't make a difference. I get it all back every month. I make the payment. It's back in my banking system. And then as that banking system builds back up each month, because I'm always recapitalizing it, I just lend that money back out. Chris Rude needs money. Great. Here you go. Rob Fuller and Nicole Fuller need money. Here you go. I just lent them another big chunk. And then they pay me interest, and that interest comes back. And then you got yourself a whole nother freaking problem. And that is there's so much money coming back. The car payments are coming back to your banking system. The Fullers are paying me back. Chris Rude's paying me back. I bought this copy machine in here. So Money School's paying me back. Back a while ago when Shauna came into my office and said, Chris, how are you going to make payroll? Like, I don't know how I'm going to pay myself this week. I've made a loan to that company, and that company still pays me back today. It's probably been long paid back, isn't it, Shauna? But anyway, that company still pays me. So what's the problem? I'm not bragging here, folks. The problem is now that money that always generates means there's always more money that needs to go in motion. That's where Private Money Club came from, folks. I needed a better place to make money go to work for me. Now, listen, folks, you're at a different stage. Maybe you're way ahead of me. Maybe you're, a little behind me. But please preface, a short while ago, I was broke and I was heavily in debt. And I don't need to just tell you that because I'm not making a story up. Shauna can contest. Like, we were broke, couldn't make payroll, didn't know how anything was going to work. But I knew that a long time ago, I had started one of those whole life policies and I had started putting money in it. And lo and behold, when I needed money, I took it out and I lent it to my company. And that damn promissory note that I showed earlier, okay, every single one of them has one of these promissory notes. And I'm not even kidding. Like, I called my bookkeeper the other day. I'm like, hey, we still got that loan from Flip Out Academy, which is one of our other companies. And I looked at it because I had this promissory note, the one that I showed you earlier, and I'm like, should we just pay this loan off? Because I charge just simple interest. So, which means every payment it makes, it's not paying the principal down. And we had the money. It was only like a $10 or $11,000 loan. And I filled this out. I signed it. Because when you sign your name to something, you're committing yourself. And the biggest problem, I think, with the infinite banking concept, me and Stephen talk about this a lot, is people, they want to associate, I think that's the right word. They want to think that the policy is their money, which it is. The policy is your money. You save that money. But they think when they take a loan from the policy, they shouldn't pay it back just because they save that money. It's their money. Why would I pay back? Why would I pay the loan back? That's my money I saved. To each their own. Nobody said you have to pay the loan back. The insurance company never will tell you have to pay the loan back. You do have to pay the loan interest, but you don't have to pay the loan back. But why would you cheat yourself? If you made the payment back with interest, like I've done every time, you get all the money, which means every month you have more money, which means over time, every month you have more money and then you have more interest earning on that money and compounding. Like, why would you ever not? The biggest thing, and I know I struggle a lot because a lot of times with Instagram, people will watch a 60-minute video and then send me a direct message telling me how much of a jerk I am, how, that isn't the right way. I just got this guy yelling at me this morning. That doesn't work that way. That's so dumb. Why would I save money to buy a car and then pay for the car on a monthly basis? Here's your sign, dude. Here's your sign. You're broke because you don't understand the simplest concepts of banking. Like, you don't steal from your bank. If you're okay paying somebody else's bank, then damn it, pay your bank back. Why would you steal from your bank? Well, it's my money in the first place. Doesn't matter. It's the bank's money in the first place too. When you go to a bank, I know it's really our money, but let's just pretend it's the bank's money. And when they lend that money back, if they lend it to the CEO or the president of the bank, the president's got to pay that money back. Nobody steals from their bank. Their bank would go out of business. You wouldn't steal from your business. If you had any store, if you had a convenience store, you'd get good at not stealing from your business. If you took something from your store because you needed it, you'd pay for it. I remember in Fat Man, my retail store, I remember when I would take a shirt, a new shipment would come in, a new Volcom shipment, I'd be like, oh my God, that's awesome. I got to have that. I would buy it. I would take money out of my pocket or use a credit card right in front of my employees because I wanted to see them to see me do this. And I would pay for that item right there. I would get my discount, but I didn't take a bigger discount than what my employees got, which we got a 30% discount when we did that. But I paid for all the stuff that I bought from my store. This is just, it's no different than what we do today. Stephen, what can you say about that?
The thing is this stuff's not difficult because we've done all the work for you. Like, we've went out, we've found the companies that this stuff works with. We've found the best policy designs to create the product portion of it. We've figured out the best way to use infinite banking to support you and help you through our mapping implementation team. We have our design teams that create the perfect policy to match your goals. So like when it comes to kids policies, it's so easy. Like what I did is I started a policy just like the one you did for Vivi. Now my son was 6 when he started it instead of 6 months old. So it's a few years behind, but when you look at the cumulative time, it's the exact same policy. It's a beautiful thing. It's so a 6-month-old and a 6-year-old, the numbers are basically the same. And so what's really cool about that is all I did is it said, hey, I want to start this exact same policy for my son. And a few weeks later, I had one in place for him. And now all I got to do is exactly like you're doing. We're going to use it for purchases. We're going to use it for expenses. We're going to use it for whatever happens in his life. And not only that, but teaching him how to use it. The money side's fine, but the ability to teach a child how to actually do it is that much more powerful. And like you said, it's not a get rich quick scheme. It's not these kids policies, especially, are not something that it's going to drastically change your life today. But how much will that change your life, your kid's life in the future? I mean, what if I was given one of those policies when I turned 18, 20, 25 years old, Chris? I mean, what if you were given one of those? We were talking about, cars earlier. I grew up, my dad had a used car dealership, so I always drove cars just off the car lot. So that's kind of like, I never had my own car. I just would change them up all the time. But when I finally moved out and moved to Florida on my own, he gave me a $2,500 Cadillac, one of those old Alantes, if you remember those. But it was a 20-year-old Cadillac that was worth $2,500, and he did give me that car and said, good luck. And I drove it to Florida and started my life. But it's one of those things like, what if you would have said, okay, here's how we go purchase a car. Here's how you recapture all the money for it. And by the way, congratulations on proving that you're responsible and understand infinite banking and money. Here's a policy now that you can use as a banking system for the rest of your life. Like, maybe it would have, increased how quickly I became successful, or maybe it would have changed, but whatever. But that's what it's all about, is giving your loved ones the best possibility, in whatever they want to do in life. And it's great, man. We've done all the work.
Love it. So folks, as we kind of get to the end, I want to bring it back to proximity is power. We talked about a lot. I went on a long rant, whether you got something out of it or not. Some of you are probably thinking, man, does this guy ever shut up? Whatever. You're probably right. I want to bring it back to, where are you going to spend your time in the future, and who are you going to spend it with? I asked you to draw a line in the sand and not cross back over and do the things you said you're not going to as of today. So the one thing I would love, and we're coming out of COVID and everything's opened back up, is a lot of the people that we talk to on these webinars, a lot of the people that we meet, a bunch of new people, it'd be nice to just shake your hand. It'd be nice to just talk to you. It'd be nice to put a face to the name, like Dexter, like, for the longest time, there's this guy, Dexter, who just showed up on all of our webinars. Then all of a sudden he showed up to one of the events and we're like, oh my God, there's the Dexter. And then since then, Dexter, we've gone to Mammoth, California with him. I mean, we've just shared so many things. Like, why can't that be you? Well, it won't be you if you don't understand proximity is power. So we're here on a computer looking at each other, or you're looking at us and we're looking at a name on the screen in your comments. But why don't we change the dynamic of that? Why don't we actually put a face to the name, shake your hands, and actually meet with you? And we can do that by just meeting out there in Utah. So we're going to, again, put the dates, and we're going to put the link up. Get a ticket, come out, join us. Do a VIP ticket if you want to do the day before with, the interview with Kelly and Sean Whalen. He's a much bigger name than I am, but I'll also be getting interviewed, but I'm probably like I'm just the opening act. Sean Whalen's the main act, and you can get to meet them firsthand, hang out with them, hang out with us, get to meet Shauna, Steven, and our entire team will be there. Why wouldn't you do that? Some of you are like, well, it's 600 and some bucks. So what? Where are your values? Cost is only an issue in the absence of value. You're basically saying that you don't value the relationships and you don't value the proximity is power mentality. It's up to you. We're not going to force you or hold your hand or tell you to do it. The event will sell out. But I think right now you have the ability, now that you've got this whole thing, we've given you a bunch of value, to actually take action on that and actually make it real. Make that line that you just drew on a paper in your mind or wherever, you can make it real and spend real time with us. I didn't have time to go into any of the stories of all the people that I've been able to meet, from Greg Reed to Scott Duffy to Randy Garn, and God, the list just goes on. All of my mentors that I've gotten to meet. Greg Hurling, who's now my business partner, Kent Clothier, who's now my business partner. Like, those guys back in the day were so big, I thought they were untouchable. I could never meet with them. I could never be in their circle. They're now my business partners. Randy Garn, personal friend, calls me family. Like, do the research on him. Through Randy, I've met people like Sean Whalen, and Sean, not that we're friends, but we know each other, and the Pace Morbys and the Jamils, and, I could just go on. But like, all those people could have never happened if I sat behind a computer just saying, I'm not going to spend the $697 to go to the event and actually shake people's hands. None of those relationships could have ever happened. Greg Reed, okay, many years ago, I went to a mastermind at his house that I could not afford. It was $5,000. I almost asked for a refund after I bought it, but my wife, took care of it, and she ended up getting me a cheap hotel close because I couldn't afford to stay in the place all the other people were, and I had to walk to his place. I probably could have got an Uber, but we were pinching pennies. And Greg Reed just today told me that he's going to publish my next book, which me and Gabby and Andrew just finalized the manuscripts. I think the working title is called The Light in the Darkness. So he's going to publish that book. Could that have ever happened if I didn't get to know Greg by actually going out on a limb and spending the money because I valued the relationship? No, I'm speaking as a keynote speaker at his event. I'm one of the only keynote speakers speaking at Secret Knock this year. Could that have happened if I didn't go to the event and understand the power of proximity? I was in his proximity. I was at his house. Cost a lot of money to be there, but I did it. What do you value, folks? So hopefully we'll see some of you at that workshop out in beautiful Utah, unbelievable area. And if there's any sneakerheads on here, well, you're going to have a lot of fun checking out that sneaker store. But with that, Shauna, do you want to close this down today?
Yeah, we do have one question. I don't know if we want to hit that. And then Andrew was also asking like when Vegas is, which is going to be October 26th through the 28th. So it's like the last weekend of October. And then the one question from Paul is, I'm about to start a policy. Is there a point in the policy that you don't need to put into it? I think we can hit on that real quick. And I also want to encourage everyone just to come back at 4:30 for Ask Me Anything. We do a live stream for like it used to be like a half hour. It goes for an hour at this point. It's on the YouTube channel. It'll stream there. So we can also just do totally just question, answer, comments, and fun stuff. And you get to see all the whole team.
Are you
I think I might be
serious?
grabbing a beer for that one today too.
Yeah, I think I can
Been a
too.
while.
Has been a long time. I'm going to put the link up, folks, for the Las Vegas Mastermind, if they didn't already. So there's the link. If any of you want to get a head start, because that will sell out. That's the experience. We're going to race cars. We got, what do we got? We got Ferraris, Mercedes, Porsches.
An Audi thing, like whatever the Audi thing is.
Audi
that
R8. I can't remember all the
driven.
cars, but basically just a whole bunch of exotic cars. We're going to go to a track and race cars together. Like, how about that for proximity is power? Like, you literally get to race exotic cars with us, and I'll race any of you. You're going down. But yeah, there's the link for that. It's pretty sweet. And let's go back to Paul's question about the policy. Is there a point in the policy you don't need to put anything in? Yes, year 10. So year 10 on any policy we design, you can do what's called an RPU, which means you no longer have to make deposits. But Paul, I want you to listen really carefully, and everybody else listen really carefully. So year 10 comes. You no longer have to put premium deposits into your policy anymore. But let's just use a number of $5,000. I put $5,000 in, and let's just say I can take $7,500 out. My $5,000 gave me $7,500. How many of you would stop putting the $5,000 in and forego the $7,500? Would any of you stop putting money in? And then the next year it's more. So the next year you put 5 in and now you take 8 out. And I'm just making numbers up. Next year you put 5 in, you take 85 out. Would any of you stop making deposits into your banking system because you could? I sure hope not. Because if you're one, hey, Paul, I'll make a deal with you. Like, if you did do a policy and you got to year 10 and you were like, I don't want to make deposits anymore. I'll make a deal with you. I'll make your premium deposits for you. And then you just pay me the gain on my money. So in other words, I put 5 in and I'm going to get 7,500 and you can just have the policy. Fair? That's how it works. Is this where a term to permanent conversion helps? So that's a good question. And we never really hit that because not a lot of people ask. So a lot of folks have term insurance. I have term insurance. Okay. And all of our policies are built with term riders. So a term to permanent conversion could be an option, but the chances are when you do your term to conversion or your conversion to a whole life, you're not going to get a specially designed whole life. You're going to get an off-the-shelf standard whole life, which is not going to work anything like the ones that we're talking about. So if you have term insurance, keep your term insurance. Term insurance is great protection. It's pure protection, meaning if you die, for the term of time, 10, 20, 30 years, somebody's going to get a check. That's awesome. I have 20-year term policy so that if I die, all of our rental properties, the mortgages get paid off. But my term insurance is pure protection. My whole life policies that I designed, especially designed whole life, those are for the use of the infinite banking concept. It's totally different use. Yes, they have a death benefit, but my death benefit, I'm not focused on that with my policies, my whole lives. My term takes care of that. So it's kind of like Dave Ramsey should always, I keep saying this, and one of these days he's going to send me a thank you card, damn it. I keep telling Dave he should thank us because we're always telling people to use term insurance as a piece of their portfolio because that's the protection piece. But we're definitely not saying whole life's bad. Whole life is actually phenomenal. And we could show numbers all day long that would prove our point. But Dave, his ego's gotten way too big. He'll never stoop down to the level of Chris Noggle and try to challenge me on any of these conversations because we've already challenged him. He did a video saying how IBC was a scam. I did a video showing Dave Ramsey is full of shit. Excuse my language. I'll put the money in the jar because he doesn't even understand it. He doesn't understand it at all. And the video he did makes him look like a complete and utter fool. So that's on my YouTube channel too, if you want to watch it and see me kind of nicely prove Dave Ramsey has no clue what the infinite banking concept is.
I think that's it. Yeah, 4:30 Eastern. So basically 2 hours from now, wherever you're at, whatever time zone you're at. Ask Me Anything on the Chris Noggle YouTube channel. It also goes live on our other channel, which is Private Money Club is the name of the YouTube channel. And
look at it. There it is. Look at Shauna sitting next to the car in her red boots.
I've been on Poshmark looking up NASCAR, used NASCAR jackets. They're actually very expensive. I've been trying to thrift. If anybody has a NASCAR jacket they want to loan me for a weekend, I'll give you my address.
3 days of fun, folks. 3 days of fun.
I need some 80s rock star clothing too, if anybody wants to lend me any. Chris, we got to talk about that.
That'll be our next business. We'll just start sharing. We'll just start mailing clothes.
I'm putting it on PMC.
Oh, I love it. All right, folks. Well, thanks for joining us for another wealth webinar. It's been a lot of fun. Your questions were great. Your comments were even better. And any questions we didn't get to today, or maybe you had a question, but you didn't want to ask, bring it to the Ask Me Anything at 4:30 Eastern today. You join by subscribing to my YouTube channel at The Chris Noggle. Until then, see you next time. Thanks, folks. All right, so I hope you guys enjoyed that episode. We're putting up tons of them, but I think if you like this one, you'll probably like that video as well. Not only that, I've got a book that I created, Mapping Out the Millionaire Mystery, where we actually show you what the wealthy do in the game they play with money. I want you to have that for free. And if you want to know about all my new videos coming up, click that alert button. Actually, smash that alert button, and you'll be notified every time we put a new video. So we'll see you on the next episode.